Hey guys, welcome to this episode. We are looking at how to do angled parking bays. More specifically, we are doing the 60-degree bays. Now, these are fantastic if you've got a really tight space, you need to get the cars in. I typically, if I've only got a 3.5 meter gap between these bays, the next bays, something quite tight, that's when I'll go to a 60-degree, sometimes a 45-degree as well. Let me show you how we do it. So this is starting out with, we've got down our 90-degree bay here. We did this with the 3, 4, 5 triangle. So if you're unsure how to get this one, go back a video, you see how to do the 3, 4, 5 triangle. That'll get you the 90-degree bay. We're gonna start now with the 60. So all we're gonna do, we've got our 3-foot mark from the start. So as we just did in the 90-degree bay, we've come from here. So this is 3 feet edge to edge here. Now, if you're looking closely, you'll see that says a 4 on it. That's because if you look closely at mine, I'm starting on the 1-foot mark. The reason I'm doing that is just the end of the tape's a bit frayed. So I've started on the 1-foot mark. I've gone to 4 foot, so it's exactly 3 feet. Now, what I'm gonna do from here is I'm gonna draw some curves on the floor from each of these points, and that's gonna give us our 60-degree bay. It's always easier with 2 people when you're doing these. So we know we've got a 3-foot line in just here. What I'm actually gonna do though, is I'm gonna draw this on the floor in the form of a curve. So just holding my tape like this, I'm gonna run it across the ground, and it's giving me a nice big curve all the way across. Now what I'm gonna do, Harry, if you can join over there, I'm gonna do exactly the same. So again, this comes down 3 feet to this corner. I'm gonna bring it across here, and where these lines intersect again, this is my 60-degree bay. So all I need to do now, if I just roll this tape up out the way, is to string line my parking bay in. All I'm gonna do is bring this along here. And this line here is my 60-degree bay. Pull it in again. Perfect. So as you can see here, we've got the 90-degree this side, we've got our 60-degree here. We were dividing it in half. We can see we've got a 30 just there as well. That's literally all we want to do for a 60-degree bay. Now, the other thing, we've only got one line in here. We need to put our second line in. So if you imagine, this is my parking line. You can see the one in. In fact, let me just run it in chalk just to make it a little bit clearer in case you can't quite see on the camera, roughly getting it in. But you can see that first line on the floor. I'm gonna do exactly the same from this point here now. So we've got the first line, we've got our line up the side. We just need to add another one now. Make sure we get that angle completely right. So that's our 1 foot, just stand right there. I'm gonna mark on the ground. So this is now also, I got my 3 the wrong way around. I'm writing it backwards, but you know what I mean. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna do exactly the same where we did a curve as before. So I'm gonna come out 3 feet from this. I'm gonna draw a nice big curve on the floor. So we've got a nice, great big curve. And then we're gonna do exactly the same from this side that we had there. So if you can just step on it right there for me. So bang on the 1 foot. So again, we're just gonna intersect these points here. Great, nice and easy. That crossover point is our next 60-degree bay. Let's prove it. Let's chuck this in with the string line, and then I'll just go over it with chalk so you guys can see. And all I'm gonna do, run our next line in. It's gonna go here, and you can see this is parallel to my chalk line there. Great, that's that pulled in. Now I can see it clearly, but on camera, if it's not quite showing up, let me just chalk it so you guys can see a little bit clearer. That is your 60-degree parking bay. Now, the key thing we want to get here is we want to get the length right, because a lot of people go wrong. You don't want staggered ends on this. And so what I would do, if we were going to go, for argument's sake, 5 meters, I'm going to call it 5 feet. I'm just going to mark out where my 5-foot line will be. So it will actually end here. And then if you can just move that point you've got there, I'm going to put it down on here. I'm going to come exactly the same right here. That is where my parking bays will end. And then we're just going to string across these 2 lines. Great. That is into my parking bay. Let me just draw this in for you. Now, arguably I've used feet, but if this were meters, that'd be a 5 meter bay, 2.6 meters wide. I've actually gone 3, so it'd be a 3 meter wide by 5 meters long. That is your 60-degree parking bay miniaturized.